Today we'll be working in my workbook called Onward to the Cross, which is a chronological look at Passion Week. And to kind of know where we are, we're going to go to this map right here. By the way, we are in our chapters. We are now going to be doing the Last Supper, which is chapter 8. But to kind of get an idea of what has happened up to this point, Sunday of Passion Week is Palm Sunday. And he goes from Bethany, which is where they normally stay, and they get donkeys from Bethpage, and they travel in to Jerusalem in that way through the gate. And so then he goes up to the temple, and on we believe on Sunday night he cleanses the temple, and then he goes back and on Monday, when he comes through again from Bethany, he sees a fig tree and he curses the fig tree, and he teaches people around the temple, because things are always happening around the temple. So he teaches around the temple on Mondays and Tuesday. Wednesday, we're not sure where he was. If some of the things that we saw that we figure are Monday and Tuesday, if some of those are on Wednesday, or if he just rested in Bethany, knowing what's about to happen. Thursday is what we're going to be starting tonight, is Thursday night. So I will get to there. As soon as I find it. Hello. Hello. Nope. Yep. The Last Supper. So Mark 14, 12 through 25, and John 13, 4 through 17.
On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, when it was customary to sacrifice the Passover lamb, Jesus' disciples asked him, "Where do you want us to go and make preparations for you to eat the Passover?"
So the festival of unleavened bread, now commonly called just the Passover, usually lasts 7 days and starts on a particular day of the month. And our story, Passover, started on Thursday. Now, this is a little off, I think. I think the Passover feast is on Thursday night, but this whole week is what we call Passion Week. So there's a little overlap from the festival to Passion Week. In our story, Passover started on a Thursday. How many days is the festival of unleavened bread?
7 days.
What is another name for the festival of unleavened bread?
Passover.
What day of the festival do you eat the Passover dinner?
First day of the Passover.
And what animal is normally eaten for the Passover dinner?
Lamb.
What day of the week is it?
Thursday.
Right, Thursday. So the week of Passion Week and the week of Festival of Unleavened Bread aren't completely aligned. Passion Week started on Sunday. The Passover starts on Thursday. So just a little reference. We always talk about them being the same, but they're not.
Okay. All right. So he sent 2 of his disciples, telling them, "Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. Say to the owner of the house he enters, the teacher asks, 'Where is my guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, furnished and ready. Make preparations for us there." The disciples left, went to the city, and found things just as Jesus had told them. So they prepared the Passover.
So this is a picture of the actual location they deem is the upper room. Now, whether it is true or not, I don't know. A lot of things have been labeled in Israel and in Jerusalem that may not be true, but they've designated this as the upper room of Jesus's time. How many disciples did he send into the city?
2.
2. Who were the disciples going to meet?
A man carrying a jar of water.
Right. The room described is
large
room,
upstairs,
furnished and
ready.
right. So let's just review a moment. Each number on the map indicates an event that happened during Passion Week or the last week of life in Jesus. Let's follow the numbers to the current story. Number 1 is the town of Bethpage. Why is this town important to the story of the Passion Week?
That was when 2 disciples picked up the donkey and the colt and rode them down to Jerusalem.
Right. So draw a line along the road, past the Garden of Gethsemane, down into the Kidron Valley, and up the first street. This happened on Sunday. B, Jesus generally spent his nights in the city of Bethany. Find Bethany and circle it. Number 2 is the temple. What first happened at the temple?
Jesus drove out the merchants and overturned tables that were selling doves and cattle, etc.,
Right.
etc.
So continue your line from A above all the way to the temple. This happened on Sunday. Monday, Jesus cursed a fig tree and the questions from the Pharisees started. Tuesday, Jesus spent in and around the temple teaching and answering questions. Wednesday, his actions are unknown. So number 3 is the upper room. Question mark means scholars aren't sure, but their conclusion, but it is based on their best evidence. This is where our current events will be happening. Circle it. What day of the week is it?
Thursday.
Why is there a question mark regarding the next upper room?
Scholars aren't sure, but their conclusion is based on evidence if it is the upper room.
Right. Sometimes it's best evidence they have.
Yeah. Okay. When evening came, Jesus arrived with the 12. While they were reclining at the table eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me, one who is eating with me." They were saddened, and one by one they said to him, "Surely you don't mean me."
Right. And of course, they sit at the table different than we do. They recline at the table. They don't have chairs. What is meant by the 12?
The 12 disciples.
Apostles, yes. During
Apostles.
Jesus's time.
Aren't they the
Yeah.
same apostles and
No, they are not. The
disciples?
apostles are the 12. The disciples is anyone who follows Jesus. You and I are a disciple. And there might have been disciples in the room too, but they were talking about when they say 12, it's the apostles they're talking about.
Okay.
During Jesus's time, people didn't sit at a table, they
Reclined.
Yeah. What time of day was the Passover meal?
Evening.
Right. What did Jesus tell his apostles?
One of you will betray me.
What did each one of the apostles ask him?
Surely you don't mean me.
Right. When we see these, because I have 2 stories combined here, we see that they're all looking from a different point of view, and so they kind of interrupt each other a little bit or conflict each other a little bit. But it's just how each witness saw it. Do you think Jesus already knew who the betrayer was?
Yes, because he knows everything.
Right. And then just a fun guess, circle the man you think would be Jesus' betrayer in the picture. That's just totally up to you.
It is one of the 12, he replied, one who dips bread into the bowl with me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to the man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born.
So as far as them dipping the bread, it's very similar to Olive Garden, which you have down there, right? Olive Garden or macaroni grill.
Yes.
Where you have a little bit of oil and sonic vinegar and dip it. Yeah. And so that's similar what they're doing here. What was the action that was going to identify the betrayer?
Dips bread into the bowl with me.
Right. John 13, 26, 27, we get a little more clarity. Jesus answered, "It's the one to whom I will give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish." Then dipping the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. As soon as Judas took the bread, Satan entered in him. So Jesus told him, "Whatever you're about to do, do quickly." But everybody has a different look at this particular incident. Because it's interesting to me, if Jesus said this, how would not the other apostles know what's going on, type thing. So there must have been a lot of commotion at that moment, and he was able to say something that only Judas heard, perhaps. I don't know. Who will the traitor be? Yeah, who will the traitor be?
Judas, son of Simon Iscariot.
Iscariot, yeah. And who entered the apostle?
Who entered this apostle? I would say Satan.
Right.
While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take it, this is my body."
So at this point, Judas Iscariot has left the room. Jesus is now teaching what we call communion. He didn't call it communion then, but it's what we call it, communion. As far as how he's doing it, it's probably not uncommon to what they were expecting. But now he adds to it, "This is my body," which is an extra element that they're not used to. What did Jesus do just before he broke the bread?
Gave thanks.
Yeah. How many people did he give it to?
11.
Right. What kind of bread is he breaking? What name of the festival are they celebrating?
Unleavened.
Yeah, unleavened bread. So it would be flat bread that has not risen with yeast.
Yeah.
And so unleavened bread, which the kind of bread is this, it's flat bread or anything that's not risen by yeast. What did Jesus say to his disciples regarding the bread?
Take it, this is my body.
The act of communion is a way for us of remembering what Jesus did for us. His body was broken for us. His blood was shed for us. So this communion is very similar to a lot of the other festivals of the Jewish festivals where they commemorate a major event that is not supposed to be forgotten. The idea of Passover has to do with the death angel passing over the firstborn. The idea of the Feast of Purim has to do with the Book of Esther and all that event. And all the festivals are related to something that has happened. So he is establishing this before he dies as an event that now we all do as kind of remembrance of what he did.
Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many," he said to them. "Truly I tell you, I will not drink again from the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God."
Right. And drinking it new in the kingdom of God will be at the banquet of the bridegroom and the bride up in heaven. Just saying.
Yeah.
And this is my blood of the covenant. It's kind of like saying that this covenant that I have made to you, that I will be here and always be for you. That's a covenant. And it's what was in the cup?
Wine.
We use grape juice now only so that we don't hinder our brothers and sisters who are alcoholics. It's really the only reason. What did Jesus do just before he handed out the cup?
Gave thanks.
What did Jesus say the wine represented?
His blood.
Right. It wasn't his blood. It represented his blood. And what's the importance of that? If you go to a Catholic church, they literally feel that the bread and the wine they give you is his body. Don't know what. Okay. When was Jesus going to drink from the fruit of the vine again after this meal?
That day when I drink it new in the kingdom of God.
Right. If you read the banquet of the Lamb, you'll see that he's sharing a meal with us. In most churches today, grape juice is used instead of wine for communion.
Yeah. Okay. Then Jesus got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him.
Right. And this is symbolic. He didn't and go in and thoroughly cleanse their feet. It was more symbolic. I mean, he did it. But as far as washing a person's feet, that was often done when you went to a feast at someone's house. The slaves would come around and wash your feet because you only had sandals or barefooted. And so that was just an act of custom that they did. But in this case, usually it was the slaves that did it, not the master of the house. And but he's wanting to teach them one other lesson before things happen. What is the general footwear during the time of Jesus?
Sandals.
Sandals or barefoot? Yes. Foot washing was common during the time of Jesus. However, it was usually done by the servant of the house, not the master. If you were one of the apostles, what would you be thinking right now?
Yes, we should be washing. Oh, you are our master. We should be washing your feet.
Right, which is what Peter's going to be saying. But yes, this was a really
Yeah.
strange occurrence to them. They didn't understand, although he said it a couple times, is the greatest among you is a servant. So he's acting it out rather than telling them anymore.
He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, Lord, are you going to wash my feet? Jesus replied, you do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand. No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet. Jesus answered, unless I wash you, you have no part for me. Then Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well.
Right. That's just Peter for you. But really, a lot of times Peter says what the rest are thinking. You know, Lord, you don't wash our feet. I mean, that could be literally what they're all thinking. And he said, you know, if I can't do this, then you're no part of me. Well, then wash all of me, you know, it's whatever. So, you know, a lot of times Peter just says what the other apostles are thinking, but we kind of say that Peter is, you know, one that tends to say things without thinking, but they're all thinking it. Why does Peter object to Jesus washing his feet?
Because Jesus is the leader, not the servant.
Right. What is Jesus's reply to Peter's objections?
Unless I wash you, you have no point with me, no part with me.
Right. Then what did Peter say?
Not just my feet, but my head and hands as well.
Jesus sometimes confuses the apostles with his actions, much like he confuses us. But that just sets up a teaching moment, is usually what happens.
Jesus answered, those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you, for he knew who was going to betray him. And that was why he said not everyone was clean.
We know the betrayer has already left the inner room, but where has he gone? And this is how the seeds of betrayal was sown. First, his enemies watched. So Matthew 26, 3-5. The chief priests and the elders of the people assembled in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and they schemed to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the festival, they said, or there may be a riot among the people. We have read that a couple chapters back. Then Judas Iscariot comes to him. Luke 22, 3-6. Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, one of the 12, and Judas went to the chief priests and the officers of the temple guard and discussed with them how he might betray Jesus. They were delighted and agreed to give him money. He consented and watched for an opportunity to hand Jesus over to them when no crowd was present. And what is Judas Iscariot going to betray Jesus the Messiah for what?
Money.
Money, yeah, for money. I don't know what he was thinking or how he justified this. We never know because
yeah, that's a great picture. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his palace. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I've set you on an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them.
Right. So basically, he's trying to teach them that the greatest among them is a servant, and you need to be a servant and a willing servant to be greater. But that's not easy for any of us to do.
No.
Okay, so we get to the crossword. So number 4 across, what does the wine represent?
Blood,
Right. Number 5 across, what animal is eaten for Passover?
lamb,
Number 6 across, what day of the week is it?
Thursday,
Number 7, who objected to Jesus washing his feet?
Peter,
Okay, 1 down. There are 12.
apostles,
2 down. Who is going to be the traitor?
Judas,
Number 3, today when we share grape juice and unleavened bread, what do we call it?
communion,
Right. 4, what does the bread represent?
body.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm going to turn this off a moment.